Welcome to Japanese Sleep Whispers, your sanctuary for peaceful nights and gentle dreams. Here, you will find calming bedtime stories inspired by the timeless beauty and traditions of Japan. Each story is read slowly in a soothing voice, accompanied by natural sounds such as flowing rivers and the tranquil rhythm of shishi-odoshi. Whether you seek relaxation, relief from stress, or help falling asleep, these tales invite you to drift away into a world of serenity. Imagine quiet temples, moonlit gardens, and the whispering bamboo forests as you listen. If you'd like these soothing stories to be part of your nightly routine, consider subscribing so they're always with you when you need them. Subscribe and let these stories be your nightly ritual of calm and rest. Thank you for being here. May you always find peace in every moment. The Morning Dew on Garden Stones. Prologue: The Dualet Path. In the earliest light of morning, the garden was still. A hush lay across moss and stone, broken only by the faint drip of dew sliding from leaf to earth. The air was cool and gentle, touched by the fragrance of pine and camellia. Along the stone path, beads of dew shimmered like small stars. They clung to moss, to grass, to the flat surface of weathered stepping stones, each one catching the soft glow of dawn. A traveler padded into the garden, his sandals brushing the ground without sound. He paused to watch the dew sparkle, each drop holding a world of stillness within its fragile body. The hush of the garden seemed endless, yet full every breath a reminder that here, time moved at the rhythm of falling water and drifting mist. The traveler bowed slightly, as if greeting the morning itself. Then, with lantern in hand, he followed the stone path into the heart of the garden, where silence and light wove themselves into a gentle song. Chapter 1: The Stone Bridge. The path curved and led to a small bridge arched over a trickling stream. Its stones were worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, damp with morning mist. Moss crept along the edges, softening the shape of the bridge until it seemed grown from the forest itself. The traveler paused, listening to the stream below. The water moved slowly, carrying fallen petals and tiny leaves. Its sound was soft, like a lullaby whispered beneath the earth. Leaning on the railing, the traveler let his eyes follow the current. The ripples bent light into shifting shapes, and the world above the canopy of trees. The morning sky floated within the water's surface. For a long moment, he simply breathed with it, letting the stream's rhythm become his own. When he moved again, his steps were slow, each one cushioned by moss. The bridge faded behind him, but its quiet calm lingered in his chest, steady as the stream itself. Chapter 2: The Moss Garden. Beyond the bridge, the traveler entered a wide garden carpeted in moss. Its shades ranged from the palest green to deep emerald, covering stones, roots, and the base of ancient trees. Each patch was soft and full, glistening with morning dew that shimmered like tiny pearls. The garden seemed alive with quietness. A sparrow hopped across the moss, leaving no trace of its passage. The traveler knelt, brushing his hand gently across the surface. It was cool and damp, as though it held centuries of rain and silence within it. In the distance, water dripped from a bamboo pipe into a basin, its rhythm unhurried and steady. The sound echoed softly across the moss, blending with the faint rustle of leaves. The traveler sat for a while on a flat stone, breathing slowly. The moss seemed to cradle him, and he felt as if he were part of the garden itself, rooted, still, and timeless. Chapter 3: The Bamboo Gate. Leaving the moss garden, the traveler came upon a gate made of woven bamboo. Its frame was simple yet graceful, tied together with a black cord. Morning light slipped through the thin slats, drawing delicate lines across the ground. He slid the gate open with care. The bamboo creaked softly, like the sigh of an old friend. Beyond the gate, a narrow path stretched forward, bordered by tall grasses that swayed gently in the breeze. The traveler paused at the threshold, his hand resting on the bamboo. He could smell the faint sweetness of fresh shoots mixed with the cool fragrance of morning air. Birds sang faintly from the distance, their notes carrying across the quiet garden. Passing through, he felt a shift as if he had crossed into a new part of the journey. The gate closed softly behind him, leaving him within the embrace of the garden's deeper stillness. Chapter 4: The Stone Lanterns. The path curved gently, leading the traveler into a grove of stone lanterns. Some stood tall and proud, their surfaces smooth and bright. Others were weathered with age, their shapes softened by moss and time. Each lantern seemed to carry a quiet presence, as though it remembered the countless mornings it had witnessed. The traveler paused before one lantern, brushing his fingers across the cool surface. Dew clung to the stone, sparkling faintly in the morning light. He imagined the lantern glowing softly at night, guiding footsteps along the garden path. Birdsong filtered through the trees above, and the lanterns stood in still silence, their shadows stretching lightly across the mossy ground. Walking slowly between them, the traveler felt as though he were being accompanied not by people, but by the quiet patience of stone. Chapter 5: The Camellia Path. Beyond the lanterns, the traveler followed a narrow trail lined with camellia shrubs. Their blossoms, red and white, glistened with drops of dew that clung to their petals like glass beads. Some petals had fallen to the path, creating a soft carpet of color. The traveler stooped to pick up a fallen bloom. Its petals were still fresh, smooth to the touch, as though it had only just drifted from the branch. He set it gently upon a nearby stone, where it rested as if placed there by the garden itself. The air here was filled with a faint, sweet fragrance. The traveler breathed it deeply, letting it soothe him as he moved. Each step was careful, so as not to disturb the fallen blossoms, and soon the path seemed less like a walkway and more like a dream he was drifting through. Chapter 6: The Wooden Pavilion. At the end of the camellia path, a small wooden pavilion awaited. Its roof was darkened with age, its beams polished smooth by time and touch. The pavilion opened on 3 sides, allowing the garden air to flow freely through it. The traveler stepped inside and sat upon the wooden floor. From here, he could see the moss garden, the stone lanterns, and the camellia path stretching behind him. The breeze carried scents of pine, flowers, and earth, weaving them together like a quiet song. A hanging bell swayed softly above the entrance. With each breath of wind, it chimed, its tone low and calming. The sound lingered, fading slowly into the silence. The traveler closed his eyes. Sitting in the pavilion, he felt the entire garden move around him softly, quietly, without haste. For a while, he simply breathed, letting himself be carried deeper into the stillness of morning. Chapter 7: The Rippled Pond. Beyond the pavilion lay a pond, its surface smooth as glass. The morning sky and branches above reflected within it, broken only by the occasional ripple of a drifting carp. Dew from overhanging leaves dropped gently, one by one, sending circles across the water. The traveler knelt at the edge, dipping his fingers lightly into the pond. The coolness spread through him, calming his breath. A dragonfly hovered above the water, its wings glistening in the morning light before darting away. The pond held both stillness and movement, like a dream that shifted without waking. The traveler lingered there, listening to the quiet song of ripples. Chapter 8: The Maple Corridor. Past the pond stretched a corridor of maple trees, their branches arching overhead to form a living tunnel. Though spring had painted them in fresh green, drops of dew clung to the leaves like jewels. As the breeze stirred, droplets fell in delicate showers, pattering softly onto the stone path below. Each step of the traveler echoed faintly, mingling with the sound of water falling from leaf to leaf. He reached out to touch a branch, feeling the cool wetness on his fingertips. The maples swayed, whispering to one another, and the traveler felt welcomed, as though the corridor itself were guiding him forward. Chapter 9: The Whispering Bamboo. At the corridor's end rose a stand of bamboo. Tall and slender, they swayed together, their hollow stalks knocking lightly in the wind. The sound was soft, rhythmic, like distant voices murmuring in harmony. The traveler entered, the path narrowing beneath the canopy. Sunlight filtered through the stalks, painting shifting patterns of gold and shadow across the ground. Each breath he took seemed to echo, long and slow, blending with the bamboo's whispers. He paused, placing a hand against one stalk. It was smooth, cool, alive. In that moment, the bamboo seemed less like plants and more like guardians, watching over the silence of the garden. Chapter 10: The Hidden Water Basin. The bamboo grove opened into a small clearing. At its center rested a stone basin, filled with clear water fed by a bamboo pipe. Drop by drop, the water fell, creating a sound both steady and timeless. The traveler knelt beside the basin. He rinsed his hands, then cupped them to bring cool water to his lips. The taste was fresh, carrying the purity of morning itself. The sound of water falling repeated endlessly, like a mantra of calm. He lingered there, listening, each drop sinking deeper into his heart. The clearing seemed to breathe with him, unhurried and eternal. Chapter 11: The Garden Bell. Beyond the water basin stood a small bell tower, its wooden frame weathered with age. The bell itself was modest, cast in bronze, its surface softened by moss and time. The traveler reached up and struck it lightly with the wooden mallet beside it. The sound rang deep and low, spreading slowly through the garden. It was not loud, but it carried far, sinking into stone, moss, and tree. As the tone faded, silence returned, yet the echo lingered inside the traveler's chest, a calm vibration that steadied his breath. He bowed lightly, as if in gratitude, before continuing down the path. Chapter 12: The Stone Steps. The trail led upward across a slope of stone steps. Each one was uneven, carved by centuries of feet and softened by moss. Dew glistened on the edges, making them sparkle in the morning light. The traveler climbed slowly, his sandals brushing the damp stones. The sound was soft, almost like a sigh. He paused halfway to rest, gazing back at the garden below, where trees swayed gently, and the pond shimmered in the distance. Each step upward felt like moving not only higher, but deeper into the heart of stillness itself. Chapter 13: The Plum Orchard. At the top of the steps lay a grove of plum trees. Their blossoms were nearly gone, yet the air still carried their faint perfume. Fallen petals lay scattered across the grass, soft as a blanket. The traveler walked among the trunks, listening to the buzzing of bees that lingered on the last blooms. The orchard felt alive yet peaceful, its fragrance mingling with the cool breath of morning. He sat beneath one tree, leaning against its sturdy trunk. For a while, he closed his eyes, letting the orchard's fragrance cradle him like a gentle lullaby. Chapter 14: The Wooden Bridge. The path crossed a small valley by way of a wooden bridge. Its planks creaked softly beneath the traveler's feet, and the railing was smooth from years of touch. Below, a stream wound lazily, its surface glistening with light. The traveler paused midway, leaning on the railing. He watched fish moving like shadows beneath the water, their movements slow and calm. A soft breeze brushed across the bridge, carrying the faint scent of pine. Each moment on the bridge felt suspended, as though time had slowed to match the stream's steady pace. Chapter 15: The Garden's Heart. Beyond the bridge, the traveler entered a circular clearing. At its center stood a great stone, polished smooth by countless years of wind and rain. Around it, moss spread like a green sea, and small lanterns stood watch in silence. The traveler knelt before the stone, bowing his head. He placed his hand upon its surface, cool and strong, and felt the stillness that radiated from it. Here, in the garden's heart, every sound seemed to pause. Only breath, heartbeat, and the distant drip of water remained. The traveler sat quietly, allowing the heart of the garden to settle within his own. Chapter 16: The Shadowed Grove. From the heart of the garden, the path curved into a grove where sunlight was dim. Tall cedars stood in silence, their trunks dark and straight, their branches forming a thick canopy overhead. The air here was cooler, touched by the fragrance of pine and earth. The traveler walked slowly, his footsteps hushed upon the needle-covered ground. Birds were absent, and even the breeze seemed faint, as though the grove wished to remain undisturbed. He paused to rest against one great cedar, its bark rough and ancient. Closing his eyes, he listened to the silence, not empty, but full of hidden life, patient and unseen. Chapter 17: The Waterfall Vale. At the grove's edge, the sound of falling water grew clearer. Soon, the traveler arrived at a waterfall, its waters spilling from a rocky ledge into a pool below. Mist drifted upward, catching the light like silver threads. He approached the pool, kneeling to feel its cool spray upon his face. The constant sound of the water filled the air, steady and eternal. It was not loud, but rhythmic like a lullaby written by stone and stream. The traveler lingered, letting the waterfall's song wash through him, carrying away every trace of haste or worry. Chapter 18 The Hidden Pavilion. Behind the waterfall, half concealed by mist, stood a small wooden pavilion. Its roof was darkened with moisture, its beams slick with moss. Few travelers would find it, yet it welcomed those who did with perfect stillness. The traveler stepped inside, sitting cross-legged on the damp wood. From here, the sound of the waterfall was softer, almost like a distant drumbeat. Drops fell from the roof in a gentle rhythm, keeping time with his breath. In that hidden place, he felt sheltered, surrounded by water, stone, and silence, as though the world outside had vanished. Chapter 19 The Carp Pond. Leaving the waterfall behind, the traveler came upon another pond, broader than the first. Golden and silver carp swam lazily, their scales glistening in the dim light. Dew still clung to the reeds at the water's edge, trembling with each breeze. The traveler leaned close, watching the fish drift like dreams beneath the surface. One rose slowly, rippling the water, then disappeared again into the depths. He sat by the pond's edge, tracing circles on the water with a fallen twig. Each ripple spread outward, gentle and unhurried, until the surface returned to stillness once more. Chapter 20 The Moon Viewing Platform. Beyond the pond stood a wide platform of polished wood, built for gazing at the moon. Though it was morning, the traveler stepped onto it, feeling the smooth boards beneath his feet. The platform stretched outward, overlooking both garden and sky. Here, the air felt open and boundless. He sat with his legs folded, closing his eyes and imagining the same place under the glow of night, the pond shimmering with moonlight. The lanterns glowing softly, the sky deep and clear. Even in daylight, he felt the echo of night's serenity. The platform was not only for viewing the moon, but for remembering the stillness it brings, no matter the hour. Chapter 21 The Garden of Silence. The path led the traveler to a secluded part of the garden, where even birdsong had faded. Stones of many shapes were arranged carefully, their surfaces darkened by dew. Moss spread in soft, circular patterns around them, and the raked gravel formed flowing patterns, much like ripples of water. The traveler stood still, breathing slowly. The silence here was not empty, it was full of presence, as though the stones themselves were speaking without words. He bowed slightly, honoring the garden's quiet truth. Chapter 22 The Tea Arbor. Beyond the silent stones stood a small tea arbor. Its thatched roof bent low, and the entrance was narrow, inviting only those who entered with humility. Inside, the floor was bare wood, polished smooth by years of sitting. A single scroll hung on the wall, its brushstrokes simple yet graceful. The traveler knelt, imagining the quiet ritual of tea, the fragrance of matcha, the warmth of a shared bowl. Though alone, he felt accompanied by those who had once sat here, by the gentle spirit of the place itself. The arbor breathed stillness into him, leaving him calm and rested. Chapter 23 The Stone Garden. The traveler came at last to a broad stone garden, raked into perfect waves around islands of rock. The lines curved gently, guiding the eye without end. Each stone stood like a mountain, unmoving, eternal. Dew shimmered across the gravel, turning the ripples into threads of silver. The traveler sat upon the veranda overlooking the garden. Time seemed to dissolve, there was no before, no after, only the quiet rhythm of his breath with the stones. Here, he understood the garden was not meant to be walked, but to be entered within the heart. Chapter 24 The Last Path. Rising from the veranda, the traveler followed a final path. It wound gently beneath pine and maple, each step softened by moss. Lanterns stood at intervals, their stone surfaces wet with dew, as if carrying the memory of every dawn. The air grew lighter, the sky brighter. The sound of a distant bell drifted faintly, calling not outward but inward. The traveler walked slowly, each breath aligned with the calm that had gathered through his journey. At the path's end, a small wooden gate awaited, marking the threshold back to the world beyond the garden. Chapter 25 The Morning's End. The traveler paused at the gate, turning once more to look behind him. The garden stretched in silence, stone and moss, water and tree, all shining softly with morning dew. He bowed deeply, not in farewell, but in gratitude. For the stillness he carried within him would not fade with the garden's edge. It would travel with him, like dew resting on stone, until it vanished into the air, leaving behind quiet clarity. Stepping beyond the gate, he felt the world open. The journey had ended, yet its calm continued an endless morning, a garden within the heart, where dew glistened forever upon ancient stones. Footsteps on the lantern-lit path. Prologue. The first glow. The night was quiet, and the air carried the scent of pine and earth. Along the garden path, stone lanterns flickered to life one by one. their soft light spilling gently across moss and stone. The glow was not bright, but warm like a memory whispered into the dark. A traveler stepped softly onto the path. His sandals pressed against the earth with a muted sound, each footstep falling in time with the rhythm of his breath. Around him, the lanterns seemed to lead the way, their light forming a gentle thread through the shadowed garden. He paused before the first lantern, its surface damp with evening dew. Touching the cool stone, he closed his eyes and felt the quiet hum of night. Then, carrying that stillness within him, he moved forward, deeper along the lantern-lit path. Chapter 1: The Gate of Evening. The path began at a wooden gate, its beams darkened by centuries of weather. A single lantern stood at its side, glowing softly against the aged wood. The gate was open, welcoming the traveler into a world of shadows and light. He stepped through with care. Beyond the threshold, the garden stretched in silence. Trees leaned gently toward the path, their leaves swaying in the faint breeze. Each lantern cast a pool of light, enough to see the way, yet leaving the spaces between steeped in mystery. The traveler walked slowly, his footsteps light, unhurried. Every sound, rustle of leaves, drip of water, hum of cicadas was magnified in the stillness. The lanterns guided him, not only through the garden, but into the calm rhythm of night itself. Chapter 2: The Stone Path. The path curved gently, paved with flat stones polished by countless footsteps. Lantern light glimmered across their damp surfaces, making them shine like scattered stars beneath the traveler's feet. Each step echoed softly in the night air, blending with the faint hum of insects. Dew glistened on moss along the edges, reflecting the lantern's glow. The traveler slowed his pace, letting his movements match the rhythm of light and shadow. With every step, the world beyond the path seemed to fade, leaving only the quiet presence of stone, moss, and firelight. Chapter 3: The River's Edge. The path soon descended toward a river. Lanterns lined the bank, their reflections shimmering across the dark surface. The water flowed steadily, carrying with it the silver glow of moonlight. The traveler knelt, dipping his fingers into the cool stream. The touch of water steadied him, and the sound of its movement filled his ears with calm. Leaves drifted along the current, spinning gently before vanishing into the night. He rose and continued along the lantern-lit bank, each glow casting a bridge between earth and sky. Chapter 4: The Maple Shadows. Lanterns stood among tall maples, their branches arching overhead. The light flickered across red and green leaves, casting delicate patterns that swayed with the breeze. The traveler walked beneath them, his footsteps softened by fallen leaves. When he paused, he could hear the faint flutter of moths circling the lanterns, drawn to their gentle flame. He placed a hand on one trunk, feeling the rough bark against his palm. The maples whispered in the wind, their voices steady, guiding him onward. Chapter 5: The Wooden Bridge. The path led to a small wooden bridge arched over a quiet stream. Lanterns stood at each end, their light mirrored in the water below. The traveler paused at the center, resting his hands on the railing. The water beneath glowed faintly, touched by the lanterns and the pale shimmer of moonlight. A carp rose briefly, disturbing the surface before disappearing once more. He lingered, letting the bridge's stillness steady his breath, then moved forward with unhurried steps. Chapter 6: The Resting Pavilion. At the far end of the bridge stood a small pavilion, its roof shadowed beneath the trees. Lanterns surrounded it, their glow spilling across the wooden floor. The traveler entered and sat upon the smooth boards. From here, he could see the lantern-lit path winding behind him, glowing like a thread of stars through the dark. He closed his eyes, breathing deeply. The pavilion seemed to cradle him, its silence unbroken except for the steady chorus of night insects. Time drifted slowly, each moment dissolving into the next. Chapter 7: The Stone Garden. The traveler left the pavilion and entered a broad stone garden. Lanterns cast their glow across raked gravel, where waves of light and shadow curved like ripples in a still pond. Large stones rose from the patterns, their surfaces darkened by night dew. Each one stood as a silent mountain, unmoving, eternal. The traveler sat at the edge of the garden, watching the lanterns shimmer against the pale gravel. Time dissolved, there was only breath, light, and the rhythm of silence. Chapter 8: The Bamboo Corridor. Beyond the stones stretched a corridor of bamboo. Lanterns lined the narrow passage, their flames flickering against the smooth green stalks. The bamboo swayed lightly, knocking together in soft, rhythmic sounds. Their whispering voices blended with the steady chorus of crickets, forming a song that seemed to come from the earth itself. The traveler placed a hand against one of the stalks. It was cool, alive, humming faintly with the wind. Guided by the whispers, he walked deeper into the night. Chapter 9: The Water Basin. The path opened into a clearing where a stone basin rested. From a bamboo spout, water dripped steadily, each drop sending gentle ripples across the surface. Lanterns stood around the basin, their glow reflected in the shallow pool. The sound of falling water was quiet yet infinite, like a mantra repeated without end. The traveler knelt, rinsing his hands in the cool water. The touch cleansed not only his skin, but his thoughts, leaving only calm stillness behind. Chapter 10 The Winding Steps. From the basin, stone steps wound upward toward the hillside. Each lantern marked a turn, glowing softly against moss and pine. The traveler ascended slowly, his sandals brushing against the damp stone. The steps were uneven, softened by centuries, yet they carried him upward with ease. At each landing, he paused, gazing back at the lanterns below. They formed a quiet constellation across the hillside, guiding him higher into the heart of the garden. Chapter 11 The Overlook. At the top of the steps, the traveler reached a wooden platform overlooking the valley below. Lanterns stood at its corners, their light reaching outward into the vast night. He stepped to the edge, gazing at the sea of treetops swaying in darkness. Above them, the moon shone faintly, pale and serene. The traveler sat cross-legged, lantern light warming his face, night air cooling his breath. Here, above the path and forest, he felt both small and infinite, held in the stillness of the night. Chapter 12 The Garden Pond. Descending from the overlook, the traveler arrived at a pond surrounded by lanterns. Their soft glow shimmered across the still surface, where koi drifted slowly beneath the water. The pond reflected not only the lanterns, but also the stars above, as if the heavens had settled gently into the garden. The traveler sat upon a smooth stone at the edge, watching ripples spread whenever a fish rose to break the surface. Each ripple carried light outward, soft and unhurried, dissolving into calm. Chapter 13 The Willow Grove. The path curved into a grove of willows. Their long branches swayed, dipping toward the earth like curtains of shadow. Lanterns glowed between them, their light softened by the veil of leaves. The traveler brushed a hand against the slender branches, feeling the cool touch of dew. The willows whispered as they bent with the breeze, their voices tender, almost like a lullaby. He walked slowly, letting the branches brush against his shoulders as though guiding him forward with gentle hands. Chapter 14 The Hidden Shrine. At the grove's center stood a small stone shrine. Moss covered its roof, and lanterns flanked its steps, casting light across the carved wood. The traveler bowed before it, resting his palms together. No words passed his lips, for silence was prayer enough. The lanterns flickered, and for a moment the garden seemed to breathe with him, stone, tree, and night bound together in quiet harmony. Chapter 15 The Lantern of Reflection. Beyond the shrine stood a single tall lantern, larger than the rest. Its flame burned steadily, its light falling across a still pool at its base. The traveler gazed into the water. His reflection mingled with the lantern's glow, blurred by faint ripples. It seemed as though two selves existed, the one walking the path, and the one resting forever in the quiet water. He bowed gently to both, honoring the journey within as well as the path without. Chapter 16 The Bell Tower. At last, the traveler reached a wooden tower rising above the trees. A lantern glowed at its base, guiding him to the steps. At the top hung a great bronze bell, its surface etched with patterns worn smooth by centuries. He stood in silence before it, listening not to the bell's sound, but to its stillness, which seemed to contain every note it had ever carried. The night deepened, and the lanterns glowed more softly. The traveler placed his hand upon the cool bronze, feeling its quiet strength echo into his heart. Chapter 17 The Lantern Bridge. The path descended once more and led to a long wooden bridge. Lanterns lined both sides, their light mirrored in the flowing river below. The traveler stepped onto the bridge slowly. Each board creaked faintly underfoot, blending with the steady murmur of water. The lanterns cast his shadow onto the river, where it drifted and dissolved like smoke. He paused midway, leaning upon the railing, watching the light sway upon the rippling current. The bridge seemed to float between two worlds, one of earth, one of water, bound together by lantern glow. Chapter 18 The Grove of Pines. Beyond the bridge stretched a grove of tall pines. Their dark silhouettes rose high into the night sky, their fragrance sharp and clean. Lanterns rested at their roots, lighting the path in soft circles. The traveler moved slowly, listening to the sigh of wind through the needles. It was a deeper sound than leaves, a low, endless breath, as though the forest itself were dreaming. He touched the rough bark of one trunk, steady and ancient. In its silence, he felt the long memory of the garden, holding him gently in its embrace. Chapter 19 The Stone Stairway. The lantern-lit path led upward again, this time along a long stairway of uneven stone. Each step was edged with moss, damp and cool beneath the night air. Lanterns stood at intervals, their glow marking the climb. The traveler moved unhurriedly, pausing often to breathe, to listen, to feel the stones beneath his feet. When he reached the final step, he turned back. The lanterns below glimmered like a flowing river of light, winding upward from the darkness he had left behind. Chapter 20 The Garden of Chrysanthemums. At the stair's summit lay a wide garden of chrysanthemums, blooming even in the cool night air. Their petals glowed softly in the lantern light, white, yellow, and pale violet, each flower trembling slightly in the breeze. The traveler walked between them, careful not to disturb their fragile forms. The scent was faint, delicate, carrying with it a note of autumn's quiet strength. He paused before a lantern set among the blossoms. Its glow made the flowers seem to bow, as though offering their own still prayer to the night. Chapter 21 The Tower of Lanterns. The path led to a tall wooden structure filled with countless lanterns, each glowing softly at a different height. Some hung from beams, others rested upon shelves, together forming a constellation of warm light. The traveler entered slowly, standing within the tower's glow. The air was filled with faint warmth, and the shadows danced gently against the walls. He stood silently, surrounded by the lanterns, until it seemed their light was no longer outside him, but within, filling his chest, calming his breath, softening his thoughts. Chapter 22 The Moonlit Courtyard. At the tower's end, the traveler stepped into a courtyard bathed in moonlight. Lanterns stood at each corner, but their glow was softened by the pale silver light of the moon above. Stone tiles stretched beneath his feet, cool with dew. In the center, a single lantern burned steadily, its flame swaying as though bowing to the greater light above. The traveler paused, lifting his gaze skyward. The moon looked down, calm and eternal, as if blessing the lanterns that mirrored its glow. Chapter 23 The Garden of Streams. From the courtyard flowed a series of small streams, weaving across the garden like silver threads. Lanterns stood along their banks, their light reflected in the running water. The traveler walked beside them, listening to their gentle murmur. The sound of flowing water joined with the glow of the lanterns, carrying him deeper into stillness. At one bend, he knelt to watch the water tumble over smooth stones. Each drop caught the lantern light, becoming a momentary jewel before vanishing into the stream. Chapter 24 The Silent Torii. The path soon brought him to a red torii gate standing alone among trees. Lanterns flanked its base, their glow touching the wood with gentle warmth. The traveler bowed before passing beneath. For a moment, the world seemed hushed, as if all sounds had paused to honor the gate. Beyond it, the lanterns glowed more faintly, as though leading toward the journey's quiet end. The traveler stepped forward slowly, each footfall lighter, each breath softer. Chapter 25 The Final Lantern. At last, the traveler reached a clearing where a single lantern stood. Its flame burned gently, steady and unwavering. Moss spread around its base, silvered by dew, while the night air hung still and calm. The traveler knelt before it, resting his hands upon his knees. In the glow of that final lantern, the entire path seemed to live within him, stone and bridge, river and shrine, blossoms and moonlight. The flame flickered once, then steadied, as if whispering the path remains, even when unseen. Chapter 26 The Gate of Dawn. Beyond the clearing stood a simple wooden gate, much like the one where the journey had begun. But now the eastern horizon carried the first faint glow of dawn. The traveler bowed deeply to the final lantern, then turned toward the gate. His footsteps were light, almost soundless, as he crossed the threshold. Behind him, the lanterns still glowed. Ahead, the day awaited. Yet within him, the night's stillness endured, an endless lantern-lit path, shining softly in the heart, guiding each breath into peace. The Sparrow's Evening Song. Prologue. The Sparrow's Evening Song. In the hush of twilight, when the sky above Japan is brushed with the softest shades of violet and gold, a sparrow settles upon a weathered wooden fence near the edge of a small village. Its feathers, touched by the last warmth of the sun, glimmer faintly as though stitched with threads of light. The bird lifts its head, and with a delicate breath of wind, begins to sing. The song is not loud. It does not call for grandeur. Instead, it is quiet, fragile, like the final ripple on a pond after a stone has been cast. Yet in its fragile melody, the evening opens wide mountains, rivers, lanterns being lit one by one, and the quiet sigh of the earth preparing for rest. The villagers know this song. Children who linger outside too long hear it and think, "Ah, the day is folding itself away." Mothers pause in their kitchens as steam rises from simmering miso soup. And they smile, because the sparrow's notes remind them that even the busiest day must find its end. Old men, sitting by the shrine's gate, bow their heads and whisper, "The sparrow sings for us, so we may sleep." The sparrow sings not only for the people. It sings for the rice fields that glisten in fading light, for the bamboo groves that sway with secrets, for the ancient stones of temples that have listened for centuries. It sings for the fox that slips from the shadows of the forest, for the fireflies that spark to life near the river's reeds. And even for the wind itself, restless and wandering. Some say the sparrow's song is older than the village, older even than the trees that crown the hills. They say it carries memories from an age when gods walked freely among mortals, when the boundary between dream and waking was as thin as mist over water. On this evening, as the sparrow sings, a boy named Haru listens from the veranda of his grandfather's house. He is no longer a small child, yet not quite a grown man. His days are spent in lessons, in tending to chores, and in chasing the laughter of friends. But his nights are filled with wonder. Haru has always believed that within the sparrow's song, there lies a story meant only for those who choose to hear. The song drifts over him like a blanket woven of sound. He closes his eyes. In that moment, he no longer hears only a sparrow. He hears the murmur of rivers, the hush of mountains, the rustle of leaves touched by spirits unseen. He hears a tale unfolding, a tale of journeys, of lantern-lit paths, of encounters beneath cherry blossoms and snow. And though Haru does not yet know it, this tale will carry him farther than his village, farther than the horizon his eyes have ever traced. It will lead him through the heart of Japan, across seasons, temples, and forests, into mysteries that dwell between waking and dream. The sparrow pauses, then continues, as though urging him to listen more deeply. Its song becomes a doorway. Beyond it, Haru feels a vastness opening, a story waiting, patient and eternal. The evening grows darker. Lanterns flicker to life across the village, warm amber against the violet dusk. The air grows cooler, the sound of cicadas softens, and the first stars begin to scatter themselves like grains of salt across the heavens. Haru breathes in, his heart steady, his eyes shining with quiet wonder. And the sparrow sings. Its song drifts on the wind, traveling beyond the village, across fields and rivers, into places unseen. It carries with it the beginning of a journey, one that belongs not only to Haru, but to anyone who dares to follow the music. Thus begins the tale. Chapter 1: The Village by the Rice Fields. Morning in the village began not with alarm clocks or the ringing of bells, but with the voices of nature itself. The call of roosters drifted across the narrow lanes, joined by the croaking of frogs who still lingered from the night. Dew clung to the edges of rice leaves, sparkling like a necklace of glass beads as the first sunbeams stretched across the fields. The village lay in a small valley, embraced by low hills that seemed to shield it from the outside world. From above, it looked almost like a handful of wooden houses set gently in a bowl of green. Smoke rose lazily from thatched roofs where families prepared their morning meals. The air carried the fragrance of steamed rice, roasted barley tea, and miso simmering over quiet flames. Haru awoke to this rhythm every day. Sliding the paper shoji doors aside, he stepped onto the veranda and breathed in the cool morning. His grandfather's house was old, its wooden beams polished by generations of hands, its tatami mats soft with age. To Haru, it felt less like a building and more like a living companion, one that whispered of countless mornings and evenings it had already witnessed. From the veranda, Haru could see the rice fields stretching outward in neat, glistening rows. Farmers were already at work, their straw hats bobbing as they bent low to tend the plants. Some hummed folk songs, their voices mingling with the buzzing of dragonflies that darted above the water. He spotted his neighbor, Mrs. Tanaka, carrying a woven basket filled with fresh cucumbers and eggplants. She paused to wave at him, her face creased with the smile of someone who had lived through many summers. "Good morning, Haru," she called. Her voice carried warmth, like the crackle of a hearth fire. "Good morning," Haru replied, bowing politely. Life in the village was simple, yet each day shimmered with its own quiet beauty. There was the shrine at the hill's edge, guarded by weathered stone foxes whose eyes seemed to glint with secrets. There was the small river where children splashed in summer, its banks lined with willows that bent low as though listening to the water's endless tales. And there was the marketplace, where once a week farmers and craftsmen gathered, filling the air with laughter, bargaining, and the fragrance of grilled sweet fish. Haru loved this world, yet he often felt a stirring inside him, as if the village was only the first page of a book he was meant to read. Perhaps it was the sparrow's song, or perhaps it was the stories his grandfather told on winter nights, tales of travelers who met gods disguised as ordinary men, or of spirits who guided wanderers to hidden temples deep within forests. His grandfather, old and quiet, believed the world was far wider than what the eye could see. "Listen carefully, Haru," he would say, his voice like rustling leaves. "The earth is full of voices. Some speak in thunder, some in whispers. The sparrow's song, the river's murmur, the wind through cedar trees, all are messengers. If you hear them, truly hear them, you will never feel alone." This morning, those words returned to Haru as he watched the farmers in the fields. The cicadas had not yet begun their shrill chorus, and so the world was wrapped in a calm that felt almost sacred. Somewhere beyond the hills, he thought he heard the faint echo of the sparrow's evening song, though the day had only just begun. The thought made him smile, and yet, deep inside, it stirred a question: what lay beyond those hills? What stories waited for him there? The day would bring its usual tasks, helping his grandfather repair the garden fence, carrying bundles of firewood, perhaps studying calligraphy under the stern guidance of the village teacher. But Haru felt, as he often did, that something unseen was waiting. Perhaps not today, perhaps not tomorrow, but soon. He did not yet know that the journey had already begun, carried on the wings of a sparrow's song. Chapter 2 Lanterns of Kyoto. The first time Haru traveled beyond his village was during late summer, when cicadas sang as though they wished to split the sky open with their voices. His grandfather had decided to take him to Kyoto, a journey that required half a day by cart along winding mountain roads. Haru sat beside him, the wooden wheels rattling over stones, while the hills unfolded like pages of a story he had never read. Forests gave way to valleys, valleys to rivers, and rivers to towns where tiled roofs gleamed in the sun. The world seemed to widen with every turn of the road. By the time they reached Kyoto, evening was settling in. The city was alive with movement, merchants calling out, "Wares?" Monks passing quietly through temple gates, and children darting between stalls with hands sticky from sweet rice cakes. Lanterns hung above narrow streets, glowing like stars brought down to earth. Their light spilled across wooden facades, painting the city in shades of amber and crimson. Haru had never seen so many people gathered in one place. The air was thick with scents: grilled fish, incense, fresh tatami straw, and the faint perfume of flowers offered at shrines. He clutched his grandfather's sleeve tightly, not from fear, but from awe. They stopped at a tea house near Kiyomizu Temple. From the veranda, Haru could see the city stretching endlessly, lanterns swaying like fireflies caught in a gentle wind. Monks chanted within the temple halls, their voices resonating with the evening air. As night deepened, his grandfather leaned close and whispered, "Do you hear it?" Haru tilted his head. Amid the bustle of the city, he thought he caught a faint, familiar sound, the song of a sparrow. It seemed impossible, with so many voices clamoring around him, and yet there it was, clear, fragile, beckoning. The sparrow's melody wove itself into the hum of Kyoto's streets, into the laughter of children and the rustle of silk robes. For a brief moment, Haru felt the city breathe in harmony, as though every lantern flame flickered to the rhythm of that song. "Why is it here, too?" Haru whispered. His grandfather smiled, his eyes reflecting the glow of the lanterns. "Because the sparrow's song belongs not to the village alone. It belongs to Japan itself, mountain, river, temple, and city. Wherever you go, if your heart is still, you will hear it." Haru gazed at the lanterns, each one glowing like a promise. The city no longer felt overwhelming. It felt alive, ancient, and waiting. Somewhere within the labyrinth of streets and shrines, he sensed a story unfolding, one that called to him as surely as the sparrow's song. That night, as they rested in a small inn, Haru lay awake on a futon, listening to the city settle into silence. The sparrow's voice lingered in his memory, soft and unyielding. He closed his eyes, and in his dreams, lanterns floated upward, transforming into stars that lit a path through the darkness. At the end of that path, something awaited him, though he could not yet see its shape. Chapter 3: Whispers of the Old Forest. The road back from Kyoto wound through a forest older than memory itself. Towering cedars and ancient pines stretched toward the sky, their trunks wide enough that 3 men might not circle them with outstretched arms. The air beneath their canopy was cool and damp, filled with the earthy fragrance of moss and fallen needles. Shafts of sunlight pierced the branches in narrow beams, illuminating dust and pollen that drifted like golden motes. Haru walked beside his grandfather's cart, drawn onward by the hush of the woods. It was not the silence of emptiness, but of listening. Every rustle of leaves, every call of a hidden bird seemed to carry meaning. The forest, Haru thought, was alive in a way the city could never be. They paused at a small clearing where a stone torii gate stood, half swallowed by vines. Beyond it, steps of worn granite disappeared into shadows. Haru felt a shiver ripple through him, though the air was not cold. The gate seemed to breathe, as though it had been waiting for centuries for someone to notice it again. "Do you see, Haru?" his grandfather murmured. His voice was hushed, as if he feared to disturb the stillness. "There are shrines even the villagers no longer remember. Spirits dwell here, listening. You must tread gently." Haru nodded, his gaze fixed on the path beyond the torii. He thought he heard something, a faint melody, not unlike the sparrow's evening song, but woven through with deeper tones. It was as if the forest itself was singing, low and endless. As they continued, the path narrowed, roots twisting across the earth like sleeping serpents. Ferns brushed Haru's hands, and once, he thought he glimpsed movement between the trees, a flicker of white, perhaps the tail of a fox, or perhaps something older. "Grandfather," Haru whispered, "do you think the sparrow's song comes from places like this?" His grandfather's eyes softened. "Perhaps. Or perhaps the song is a bridge between the world we see and the one we dream. Forests, rivers, mountains, they are doors, Haru. But only if we remember how to open them." That night, they camped at the forest's edge. Fireflies gathered in quiet clusters, their lights pulsing gently like the heartbeat of the night. Haru lay awake on his blanket, staring into the canopy where stars peeked through the branches. The forest whispered to him. not in words, but in rhythms, the sigh of wind through cedar boughs, the trickle of unseen streams. The creak of branches as though the trees were shifting in their sleep. Within those sounds, Haru once again caught the sparrow's song, faint yet clear. It was no longer only an evening song. It was a thread tying him to places unseen, guiding him toward something vast and unspoken. And as he drifted toward sleep, Haru felt certain of one thing: his journey had only begun. Chapter 4: The River of Fireflies. Summer deepened, and with it came the season of fireflies. In Haru's village, there was a river that wound gently between the rice fields, its surface glimmering with starlight whenever the night was clear. The elders said the river was as old as the mountains, older even than the shrine stones. To children, it was a place of play, of splashing feet and skipping stones. But in midsummer, when the nights were warm and heavy with the scent of grass, the river transformed into something far greater. Haru first noticed them one evening when the cicadas' chorus had finally faded into silence. Tiny sparks floated above the reeds, at first only one or two, then dozens, then hundreds. Fireflies. Their light pulsed softly, like lanterns breathing in the dark. The river, caught between their glow and the reflection of stars, seemed to dissolve the boundary between earth and sky. Villagers gathered along the banks to watch, their voices hushed in reverence. Children laughed quietly, chasing the flickering lights with outstretched hands, though never fast enough to catch them. Young couples lingered side by side, whispering beneath the glowing veil. Old men smoked pipes in silence, their eyes reflecting memories only they could see. Haru stood among them, yet apart. His gaze followed the drifting lights, mesmerized by the way they moved as if guided by some hidden rhythm. The fireflies did not scatter randomly, they wove patterns, spirals, arcs that seemed almost like writing in the night air. And then, beneath the chorus of frogs and the ripple of the river, Haru heard it. The sparrow's song. It was faint, nearly swallowed by the summer night, but unmistakable. The firefly's glow seemed to flicker in time with its notes. Haru's heart quickened. The song had followed him from the village, to Kyoto, to the old forest, and now here, among the fireflies. "Do you hear it too?" he whispered. His grandfather, standing beside him, only smiled. "The world is full of voices, Haru. Each one answers another. The sparrow sings, the fireflies answer, and so the river remembers. Listen closely, and you may learn what they are saying." Haru closed his eyes. The song became clearer, as though the firefly's glow carried the sound directly to him. It spoke not in words, but in feelings of journeys not yet taken, of friends not yet met, of mysteries waiting beneath mountains and across seas. It was both a promise and a call. The boy opened his eyes again. Fireflies drifted before him, their lights tracing a path that seemed to lead along the river bank, deeper into the darkness. He felt an ache of longing, a pull as gentle as the current itself. For the first time, he wondered if the sparrow's song was not merely something to hear but something to follow. The night stretched on, endless and alive. Villagers eventually returned to their homes, lanterns bobbing in the distance. But Haru lingered, watching as the fireflies' glow slowly faded, leaving only the quiet shimmer of the river and the steady pulse of stars above. When at last he turned back toward the village, he carried with him a certainty he could not yet explain. The fireflies had shown him a path, and one day, he would walk it. Chapter 5 Dreams Beneath the Shrine. At the edge of the village, hidden among bending bamboo and moss-covered stones, stood the old shrine. Its roof was worn with age, and the wooden torii gate tilted slightly as if bowing to every visitor who approached. It was a quiet place, one that had witnessed countless seasons, storms, and celebrations. Haru often came here in the evenings, long after the villagers had returned to their homes. Tonight, the air was thick with the scent of pine and earth. Lanterns, placed along the shrine's paths, flickered faintly, casting dancing shadows that seemed almost alive. He knelt before the main hall, brushing his fingers across the smooth wooden floor. His grandfather had taught him that the shrine was a doorway not just for prayers, but for dreams, for glimpses of worlds beyond the ordinary. As Haru closed his eyes, the wind stirred the bamboo in gentle waves, creating a soft, whispering symphony. For a moment, he felt the familiar presence of the sparrow. Its song drifted in through the open doors, delicate and persistent, threading through the shadows. Suddenly, the world shifted. The lanterns glowed brighter, the shadows stretched and twisted, and the shrine itself seemed to breathe. Haru felt as if he had stepped into another layer of reality, one where time moved differently, where stories slept beneath stones and murmured through leaves. A figure appeared, or perhaps emerged from the light itself, a fox with eyes like molten gold. It did not speak, yet Haru understood. The fox was a guardian, a messenger from the forest, from the river, from the hills. It moved gracefully across the courtyard, pausing to look at him, and in its gaze, Haru sensed a question: "Are you ready to see beyond your world?" Haru's heart raced. He had always been drawn to the sparrow's song, to the flickering fireflies, to the forest paths. but now he felt the first tremor of responsibility. This was not merely wonder, it was a call. A call to step into the unknown, to follow a melody that had carried him across villages, cities, and forests alike. He bowed deeply to the shrine, to the fox, to the unseen spirits that dwelled there. When he straightened, the figure had vanished, leaving only the whisper of the wind and the soft, echoing notes of the sparrow. That night, Haru lay on his futon, staring at the ceiling. He could still hear the faint echo of the sparrow's song, interwoven with the rustle of bamboo and the distant murmur of the river. In his mind's eye, the lanterns of Kyoto glimmered, the fireflies danced, and the forest breathed with secret life. For the first time, he understood the journey was no longer a story he merely witnessed. It was a path he must walk. And though he did not yet know where it would lead, he felt a quiet certainty, like a river carving its way through stone. It would be vast. It would be wondrous, and it would begin beneath this shrine, in the place where dreams whispered and spirits waited. Haru drifted into sleep with the sparrow's melody echoing in his heart. Lanterns floated in his dreams, fireflies danced along unseen paths, and the fox's golden eyes lingered in the shadows. He was on the cusp of something, an adventure, a discovery, a tale that stretched beyond the horizon of his village, beyond the reach of ordinary days. And so, beneath the ancient shrine, with the night embracing him like a gentle hand, Haru's journey began in earnest. Chapter 6: The Mountain Pass. Morning broke with a soft pink light spilling over the hills. The village stirred, but Haru and his grandfather had already begun their journey. The path ahead led to a mountain pass that wound between towering peaks, rumored to be ancient and full of secrets. Haru's heart pounded with excitement. Every step carried him farther from the familiar, farther from the life he had always known. He glanced back once, at the rice fields glittering in the early sun, at the distant wooden roofs of the village. The sparrow had not appeared this morning, but its song lingered in his mind, guiding him forward. The pass rose steadily. Mist clung to the slopes, curling around moss-covered rocks and twisted trees. The air was crisp, scented with pine resin and wildflowers. Occasionally, a deer or fox darted through the underbrush, as if testing the traveler's courage. "This path has been here for centuries," his grandfather said, his voice steady and calm. "Travelers, monks, merchants, they all passed this way. Some left offerings, some left stories. And the mountains remember everything." Haru listened, letting the words settle in his mind. He imagined the countless people who had walked the same stones, felt the same wind, and glimpsed the same peaks. The sense of history pressed upon him, not as weight, but as encouragement. He was part of a story far larger than his own. As they climbed higher, the forest began to thin. The trees grew gnarled, their roots gripping the rocky soil like ancient hands. The wind whispered through the branches, carrying faint, melodic notes. Haru froze. Could it be the sparrow again? Or something else entirely an echo of the mountain's own voice? They stopped at a small ledge, overlooking a valley far below. Rivers sparkled like ribbons of silver, and distant forests stretched toward the horizon. The sun gilded the peaks, bathing the world in golden warmth. Haru's grandfather gestured toward the view. "Look, Haru. Each journey begins with a single step, but the path itself teaches you more than any lesson could. Keep your eyes open, and your heart will follow." Haru nodded, feeling the truth of those words resonate deep within him. He took a deep breath of the crisp mountain air and began walking again, each step carrying him forward. Along the pass, they discovered small shrines tucked into rock faces, their tiny statues weathered by wind and rain. They left offerings of rice and water, bowing quietly. Each shrine seemed to hum with presence, a gentle energy that made Haru feel both humbled and protected. As night approached, clouds gathered over the peaks. Mist rolled down the slopes, and the air grew cooler. Haru felt a thrill of anticipation mixed with nervousness. The path ahead was unknown, and the mountains seemed to murmur secrets only partially revealed. That evening, they camped beneath a rocky overhang. Haru watched the stars appear one by one, pinpricks of light piercing the darkening sky. The mountains loomed around him, silent and vast, yet somehow welcoming. In the stillness, he heard it again, the sparrow's song. Faint, distant, yet unmistakable. The melody seemed carried by the wind itself, winding around peaks and through valleys, beckoning him onward. Haru closed his eyes, letting the music fill him. Tomorrow, he would continue the journey, leaving the mountain pass behind and stepping deeper into the unknown. But tonight, beneath the vast sky and the watchful peaks, he felt a profound connection to the earth, to the past travelers, and to the song that had guided him this far. And in that moment, Haru understood something important. The journey was not only about where he would go, but also about how he listened along the way. Chapter 7: The Hidden Village. The mountain pass finally opened onto a valley unlike any Haru had seen. Mist clung to the lowlands, curling over wooden roofs and narrow lanes. Here was a village hidden from the main roads, small and quiet, surrounded by bamboo groves and rice fields that shimmered with dew. Haru stepped carefully along the path, sensing that the village itself seemed alive, observing each newcomer. Birds called from the trees, and somewhere beyond the hills, a stream gurgled softly, as though welcoming him. The villagers noticed the travelers immediately. Their clothing was simple, their faces lined with work and sunlight, yet there was a warmth in their eyes. An elderly woman approached Haru and bowed, offering a small cup of tea. "Welcome, traveler. The mountains have been watching for you." Haru blinked. The words felt strange and heavy with meaning. His grandfather only smiled gently. They have known of travelers passing through these lands for generations. Respect their ways, Haru, and they may guide you. The boy followed the woman to a cluster of small houses, where families shared meals and stories. Though language and customs differed slightly from his own village, there was an unmistakable familiarity in the rhythm of daily life cooking over open fires. Children running barefoot along the lanes, elders sitting by the gates, laughing and nodding at passers-by. That night, lanterns were lit along the village's paths, casting a golden glow on walls and gardens. Fireflies drifted among them, tiny sparks that mirrored the stars above. Haru felt a strange sense of belonging though he had just arrived. The hidden village felt like a pause in the river of his journey. A place where he could listen more deeply to the sparrow's song. Chapter 8 Encounters in the Bamboo Grove. Early the next morning, Haru wandered into a nearby bamboo grove. Sunlight streamed through the stalks, creating a lattice of light and shadow that shifted with every gust of wind. The air smelled of earth and growing things, sweet and sharp all at once. As he walked, he thought he heard movement, soft footsteps, almost imperceptible. From between the bamboo, a figure appeared, a girl about his age, with dark hair tied simply and eyes that reflected curiosity and mischief. "Hello," she said softly, but with a certainty that made Haru pause. "You don't belong here. I'm just passing through," Haru replied, bowing politely. "My grandfather and I are traveling through the mountains." The girl smiled, her expression flickering like sunlight on leaves. "Then perhaps the mountains brought you to me. I've been waiting for someone who can hear the sparrow's song." Haru froze. The sparrow's melody had been with him since the village, guiding him through forests, cities, and firefly-lit rivers. Somehow, this girl seemed to understand it too. She extended her hand. "Come with me. I want to show you something." Haru followed, weaving between bamboo stalks, until they arrived at a small clearing. At its center was a stone circle, covered in moss, with tiny carvings too intricate to notice at first glance. The air hummed faintly, as though alive. "This place is old," the girl whispered. "It listens. It remembers. And it speaks, if you can hear." Haru knelt beside the circle, closing his eyes. In that moment, the sparrow's song filled the clearing, echoing off bamboo and stone. It was stronger here, deeper, layered with voices. He could almost understand voices of the land, of those who had walked before, and perhaps of those yet to come. The girl looked at him expectantly. "Do you hear it?" Haru nodded, feeling the song vibrate in his chest. He did. And in hearing it, he knew something fundamental: this hidden village, the bamboo grove, the stone circle, they were not mere stops along his journey. They were lessons, guardians, guides. The mountains had led him here. The sparrow's song had guided him. And now, new paths were opening before him, waiting to be explored. Chapter 9: The Whispering Stream. The next morning, Haru awoke to the gentle murmur of a stream near the village. Its waters slipped over smooth stones, weaving between mossy banks, carrying the scent of wet earth and blooming wildflowers. Drawn by the sound, Haru wandered along the bank. Sunlight danced across the ripples, and the water seemed to whisper secrets just beyond understanding. He knelt, letting his fingers brush the cool current, and felt a strange warmth spread through him, as if the stream itself was alive, aware of his presence. A sudden movement caught his eye. Tiny fish darted through the shallows, their scales catching light like silver fragments. Above, dragonflies hovered, wings beating in rapid rhythms. The air was alive, humming with unseen energy. "Do you hear it?" a voice called. Haru turned to see the girl from the bamboo grove standing at the edge of the water. She smiled, her eyes reflecting the stream's shimmer. "The stream it talks?" Haru asked. "In its own way," she said. "All waters speak. Rivers, ponds, even droplets that fall from leaves. They carry memory, history, and sometimes guidance." Haru closed his eyes. The sparrow's song mingled with the stream's whispers, forming a melody that seemed older than the village, older than mountains, older than him. He felt the current pulling at his mind, showing him visions of distant forests, lantern-lit pathways, and peaks crowned with mist. The girl nodded. "Listen well. The stream carries more than water. It carries the heart of the land." Haru knelt there until the sun climbed higher, memorizing the river's rhythm. By the time he stood, he felt as though a part of the land had entered him, a thread tying him to the world beyond his village. Chapter 10: The Night of Lanterns. That evening, the hidden village celebrated a festival. Lanterns were strung along streets, gardens, and shrines, casting golden light that flickered like captured stars. The air smelled of incense, roasted rice, and the faint sweetness of summer fruits. Haru walked with the girl through the glowing streets. Children darted between lanterns, their laughter rising like music. Women in patterned yukata carried trays of sweets, and elders sat outside their homes, nodding to passers-by. The sparrow's song wove through it all, soft and persistent. Haru realized that each lantern seemed to pulse with its rhythm, as if the festival itself were a chorus for the evening melody. They reached the river that ran through the village, its surface dotted with floating lanterns. Haru's eyes widened. Hundreds of tiny lights drifted downstream, moving as though alive, reflecting stars above. "Make a wish," the girl whispered. "And send it with the lantern." Haru placed a small paper lantern on the water. He whispered, not knowing if anyone or anything would hear a wish for guidance, courage, and understanding. The lantern floated away, joining countless others, its light mingling with fireflies and stars. For a long time, Haru watched the river. The sparrow's song rose once more, stronger now, carrying the weight of countless journeys, countless wishes. It was a melody of continuity, of connection, of hope. That night, Haru lay under the sky, listening to the lantern's drift, the stream murmur, and the sparrow's song echo. He knew that the journey ahead would be filled with wonders, challenges, and discoveries. Yet he also knew that he was not alone. The land, the village, the stream, the stars, and the sparrow all were guiding him forward. And with that quiet certainty, he drifted into sleep, ready to meet whatever awaited beyond the mountains and valleys yet to come. Chapter 11: The Old Willow. Beyond the village, the path led Haru to a clearing dominated by an ancient willow tree. Its long branches swept the ground, forming a curtain of leaves that whispered with every breeze. Locals said the tree was centuries old, older than memory, and that it had witnessed countless stories, both sorrowful and joyous. Haru approached it carefully, sensing a quiet energy emanating from its trunk. As he brushed his fingers across the bark, the sparrow's song returned, faint but insistent, interwoven with the rustling of leaves. It felt as though the tree itself was responding, acknowledging him. A gentle wind lifted the branches, revealing a small hollow beneath the roots. Within, Haru found carved symbols, worn by time, yet still legible to someone who listened. The girl from the hidden village appeared beside him silently, her eyes reflecting the willow's green shadows. "Many travelers pass this way," she said softly. Some see only a tree. Others hear its story. Haru knelt beside the hollow, tracing the carvings with care. Images of rivers, mountains, birds, and lanterns intertwined with patterns he could not fully comprehend. The sparrow's song threaded through the willow, and for a moment, Haru felt connected to generations of wanderers who had paused here, leaving pieces of their own tales behind. Chapter 12 Footsteps in the Mist. The next morning, fog descended over the mountain trail. Haru and his grandfather moved cautiously, the path slippery with dew and shadowed by towering pines. Every step echoed softly in the quiet, mingling with the distant calls of unseen birds. Haru thought he heard other footsteps, light and deliberate, trailing alongside him. Each time he glanced back, the mist revealed nothing but twisted roots and wavering shadows. The sensation was both eerie and compelling, a reminder that the mountains were alive, watching travelers as they moved. The girl from the bamboo grove appeared again, silently guiding him through the densest parts of the fog. Together, they followed narrow streams and stone markers, the mist curling around them like a living shroud. At one point, the sparrow's song rose above the silence, clear and melodic. Haru realized that even in the fog, the melody could guide him, a thread of certainty in the obscured landscape. The footsteps seemed to fade as the song led him forward, carrying him through the mist with a steady rhythm. Chapter 13 Echoes of the Mountain Temple. The mist finally lifted to reveal a mountain temple, perched precariously on a cliff. Its wooden eaves stretched outward like the wings of a guardian bird, and incense smoke drifted lazily into the sky. Monks moved silently through the courtyards, chanting prayers that resonated across the valleys below. Haru and his grandfather approached respectfully. The girl gestured toward a carved stone lion at the entrance. "This temple holds echoes of travelers like you," she explained. "Some come seeking wisdom. Others find themselves." Inside, Haru knelt in quiet contemplation. The sparrow's song seemed to merge with the monk's chants, creating a symphony of nature and devotion. Light filtered through paper windows, casting soft patterns on the polished floor. He felt the weight of centuries pressing gently upon him, not heavy but grounding. The head monk approached, bowing deeply. "You walk a path few understand," he said. "Listen well, child. Every mountain, every river, every whisper in the trees carries lessons for those willing to hear." Haru closed his eyes, letting the melody of the sparrow, the mist, and the temple's chants fill him. In that convergence, he sensed the journey ahead expanding, full of unknown valleys, ancient forests, and stories waiting to be discovered. Chapter 14: The Hidden Waterfall. Beyond the mountain temple, the trail narrowed and descended into a deep valley. There, Haru discovered a waterfall tucked between moss-covered rocks and towering evergreens. Its waters cascaded with a steady roar, yet the mist it created was soft and delicate, like silver dust drifting in the air. Haru approached cautiously, feeling the cool spray on his skin. The sparrow's song echoed faintly in the falling water, mingling with the hum of the forest. Tiny rainbows formed in the mist, shimmering like fragments of dreams caught in sunlight. The girl from the bamboo grove appeared once again, her presence calm and deliberate. "Few find this place," she said. "It is older than the mountains themselves, older than memory. The water here remembers everything." Haru knelt beside the pool at the waterfall's base, watching the currents swirl and sparkle. He felt a pulse through the water, as if it carried voices of travelers long gone, echoing through the valley. Each ripple seemed to whisper a story, a lesson, a hope. "This is why we follow the song," she said softly. "It guides us to places where the world speaks more clearly." Chapter 15: Moonlit Path. Night fell, and the valley transformed under the silver glow of the moon. The path back to the mountainside shimmered faintly, dusted with dew that reflected the pale light. Crickets chirped in harmony, and the occasional owl called softly from the trees. Haru walked alongside the girl, their shadows stretching long and intertwined. The sparrow's melody threaded through the night, now richer, now carrying tones of both longing and reassurance. Lanterns from distant villages flickered like distant stars, guiding travelers through the darkness. Haru felt a sense of peace he had not known before, an understanding that the night itself was alive, a gentle companion rather than something to fear. As they reached a narrow ridge, Haru paused to look back at the valley below. The waterfall gleamed like a silver ribbon, the forest a quilt of shadows, and the stars above mirrored the lanterns scattered on the land. He understood, finally, that the path of a traveler is not only about moving forward, it is about seeing and feeling the beauty in every step. Chapter 16: The Lantern Bridge. The following evening, the travelers arrived at a small village known for its lantern bridge. Each year, villagers released hundreds of floating lanterns into the river that ran beneath the wooden bridge, letting them drift downstream. The spectacle created a river of golden lights, reflecting the stars above. Haru stood at the edge of the bridge, mesmerized. Fireflies hovered among the lanterns, their glow mingling with the warm light. The sparrow's song rose once more, clear and persistent, carrying over the water and through the village. The girl from the bamboo grove handed him a small lantern. "Make a wish," she said, "and let the river carry it. Trust the song to guide it where it needs to go." Haru placed his lantern on the water, whispering a wish he did not fully understand. Perhaps it was for guidance, courage, or understanding. The lantern floated away, joining countless others, each a story, a hope, a memory. He watched until the last glimmer faded into the night. The bridge, the river, the lanterns, and the sparrows. Song all seemed woven into a single thread of light and sound, guiding him forward into the vast, mysterious world that awaited. Chapter 17: The Misty Pass. The mountains rose before them like jagged sentinels, their peaks shrouded in thick, curling mist. The pass ahead was narrow, the trail barely visible, winding between cliffs and gnarled trees. Haru felt the weight of the unknown pressing upon him with every step. The sparrow's song, once comforting, now pulsed with urgency. It wove through the mist, carrying an invisible rhythm that beckoned him onward. His grandfather moved steadily beside him, calm and unshaken, as though he had traversed this path many times before. Shadows shifted in the fog. Haru thought he glimpsed figures between the trees, moving with silent purpose. Though he could not see clearly, he felt their presence, guiding or perhaps testing him. The mountains seemed alive, listening to his footsteps, gauging his courage. At last, the pass opened onto a small plateau, where the mist swirled around an ancient stone marker. Carvings etched centuries ago glowed faintly in the gray light, telling of travelers who had passed this way long before. Haru traced the symbols with his fingers, feeling the pulse of countless journeys beneath his touch. Chapter 18: The Forest of Whispers. Beyond the plateau, the trail led into a dense forest, the air thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. Here, the trees were taller than any Haru had seen, their trunks wrapped in creeping vines, and their branches forming a cathedral-like canopy. Voices, soft and melodic, drifted through the forest. Haru realized it was not the wind or birds, but the forest itself whispering secrets to those who would listen. Each rustle of leaves, each crack of a twig, carried meaning. The girl from the bamboo grove appeared beside him once again, her presence calm and steady. "The forest speaks to those who listen," she said. "Some travelers hear only noise. Others hear the story beneath." Haru closed his eyes, letting the whispers fill him. The sparrow's song threaded through the voices, guiding him deeper into the heart of the forest. Shapes of ancient temples, hidden streams, and lantern-lit pathways appeared in his mind's eye, visions of a world layered over the one he walked. Chapter 19 The Temple of Echoes. The forest finally gave way to a clearing, where a temple stood atop a gentle rise. Its wooden structure glowed in the fading light, the eaves curving gracefully like wings ready to take flight. The air was thick with incense, carrying both the scent of devotion and the weight of centuries. Monks moved silently through the courtyards, chanting prayers that resonated like echoes through the valley. Haru felt the vibrations in his chest, a deep harmony that seemed to align with the sparrow's song. The head monk approached, bowing deeply. "You walk a path few understand," he said. "Every step, every sound, every song carries a lesson. Listen, and you will see." Haru knelt before the temple, closing his eyes. The whispers of the forest, the rhythm of the mountains, and the sparrow's melody merged into a single, vivid symphony. He understood then that his journey was not only through the world around him, but through the unseen threads that connected everything: people, nature, and the stories of those who had come before. Chapter 20 The Hidden Valley. After days of climbing and wandering, Haru and his companions descended into a valley unlike any he had seen. Mist curled lazily above the river that wound through emerald meadows, and distant cliffs reflected the last rays of the sun like polished bronze. This valley was hidden, protected by mountains and forests that seemed to rise naturally around it. The air was thick with the scent of blooming flowers and the distant roar of a waterfall. Birds sang in unfamiliar tones, their songs weaving with the melody of the sparrow that had guided Haru since the journey began. Haru felt a strange calm as he stepped onto the soft earth. It was a place of quiet wonder, where the world seemed both vast and intimate. Here, he understood that the journey was as much about discovering hidden beauty as it was about moving forward. Chapter 21 The Silver Bridge. At the center of the valley was a bridge, constructed of pale wood that reflected moonlight like silver. It spanned the river gracefully, arched and elegant, each plank worn smooth by countless travelers. The girl from the bamboo grove stopped at its edge, pointing toward the water below. "Every traveler who crosses this bridge leaves something behind," she said. "A wish, a story, a memory. And in return, the bridge carries a gift, an understanding of what truly matters." Haru stepped onto the bridge carefully. The river below shimmered with reflected stars, and lanterns floated gently downstream. The sparrow's song rose, stronger than ever, threading through the night, guiding him across the silver planks. Halfway across, he paused and glanced back. The valley stretched behind him like a living painting. The mountains, forests, and hidden villages seemed to whisper their blessings, acknowledging his journey. He felt a profound connection to the world, as if every step had led to this very moment. Chapter 22 Night of the Fireflies. That night, Haru rested beside the river bank as thousands of fireflies gathered, creating a luminescent river that mirrored the stars above. Lanterns, floating on the water and held by villagers, glimmered in harmony with the fireflies' glow. Haru closed his eyes, letting the sparrow's melody fill him. The journey, the mountains, the forests, the temples, and the hidden villages, all of it had led him here. He felt a connection not only to the world around him but to the countless stories and travelers who had come before. The girl from the bamboo grove placed a hand on his shoulder. "The night teaches us patience, wonder, and courage," she whispered. "And sometimes it shows us the way forward when the path seems hidden." Haru nodded, feeling a deep calm settle in his heart. He watched the lanterns drift downstream, each one a story, a hope, a promise. The fireflies danced above, the river sang beneath, and the sparrow's song lingered like a thread connecting past, present, and future. For the first time, he realized that his journey was far from over, but he was ready for whatever awaited beyond the horizon. Chapter 23 The Sparrow's Summit. The path rose steeply once more, leading Haru to the summit of a peak that overlooked valleys, rivers, forests, and villages he had crossed. The wind carried the fragrance of pine and distant blooms, and clouds swirled around the mountaintop like drifting silk. Here, the sparrow appeared. Perched on a gnarled branch, its song filled the air with a melody that seemed to unite every step of Haru's journey. Mountains, rivers, forests, temples all felt connected by the notes that danced through the sky. Haru stood quietly, letting the song envelop him. The girl from the bamboo grove and his grandfather watched silently, allowing him this moment of revelation. He understood then that the journey had not only been about discovering distant lands, but about learning to listen to the world, to its stories, and to the voice of his own heart. Chapter 24 Dawn of the Journey. As dawn broke, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, Haru began his descent. The mountains seemed gentler in the morning light, the valleys welcoming. Every bird call, rustling leaf, and whisper of wind seemed to cheer him onward. The girl walked beside him, a quiet smile on her face. "Every journey changes the traveler," she said. "And every step, no matter how small, leaves a mark on the world." Haru nodded, feeling the truth of her words. The lessons of the hidden valleys, the temples, the forests, and the rivers were now a part of him. The sparrow's song, once a guide, now felt like a companion, woven into the rhythm of his own spirit. Chapter 25 Return to the village. Haru finally returned to his village, where the rice fields shimmered with morning dew and the familiar scents of home greeted him. Villagers noticed him immediately, their faces lighting with curiosity and warmth. He walked slowly through the streets, taking in every detail: the creak of wooden doors, the laughter of children, the waving of neighbors. Though he had been away, the village felt unchanged, yet he knew that he himself had changed profoundly. His grandfather led him to their home, where the old house seemed to embrace him once more. Haru stood on the veranda, watching the familiar fields stretch out before him. Somewhere, the sparrow sang its evening song, as it always had, a melody both familiar and endlessly new. Haru smiled. The journey had ended, yet its lessons, its melodies, and its mysteries would remain forever. And though the world beyond the village still called him, he knew that he would carry the song within his heart, wherever he went.